The room froze. Not because someone shouted. Not because someone stormed out. But because Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett looked Tucker Carlson directly in the eye and asked one question. A single, razor-sharp, calmly delivered question that sliced clean through his 20-minute monologue and made his entire argument collapse in real time. At first, no one breathed. Cameras caught Tucker blinking 3 times. His smile twitched. His papers shifted. He leaned back as if the chair itself had betrayed him. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't a clapback. It wasn't even loud. It was the kind of question that exposes something deeper. The kind that pulls the curtain back on bluster, performance, and manufactured outrage. The kind that makes millions lean forward and whisper, "Oh no, he's not ready for this." But before we get to that moment, before we get to the question that detonated across social media like a political earthquake, you need to understand something. This showdown was never supposed to happen. Producers wanted a polite conversation. Tucker expected an easy sparring match. Pundits assumed Crockett would play defense. Everyone believed Tucker would control the narrative. Everyone, except Jasmine Crockett. And what unfolded next would shock the nation, ignite a trending hashtag, and leave one of the most influential media personalities visibly rattled. Because Crockett didn't just counter Tucker's argument. She ended it. And she did it with a calm that shook him more than any insult ever could. But to understand why this moment was inevitable, we must step back, to the stage, to the stakes, to the exact moment tension began rising like pressure in a sealed room. Because the meltdown didn't start with the question. It started much earlier. The venue was packed, a televised political forum designed to bridge perspectives. What producers didn't admit publicly was that they booked Tucker Carlson to spark confrontation, views, and ratings. They knew he'd come in aggressive. They knew he'd test boundaries. They knew the audience would buzz. What they underestimated was Jasmine Crockett. When she walked in, calm, poised, unbothered, she didn't carry notes. She didn't carry talking points. She carried clarity. Tucker opened the show with the confidence of a man who's used to controlling the first 30 minutes of any conversation. "Congresswoman Crockett," Tucker began, leaning forward with that signature smirk, "why do you believe criticism equals oppression?" Crockett tilted her head slightly, the kind of micro-expression audiences replay in slow motion. She wasn't offended. She wasn't flustered. She was amused. "For the record," she replied, "I don't think criticism is oppression. But I do think misinformation can look a whole lot like manipulation." The audience murmured. Tucker's smile stiffened. He changed tactics. He shifted into rapid-fire mode, a technique he'd used countless times. Complex questions with baked-in assumptions. Hypotheticals stacked on hypotheticals. Leading statements disguised as questions. 10 minutes in, he launched what he assumed would be his knockout narrative. He accused her of weaponizing identity politics, of dividing America, and of dodging hard questions. Each accusation was crafted not for truth, but for rhythm, a performance designed to dominate the frame. But Crockett didn't rush. She didn't interrupt. She didn't even flinch. She did something worse. She listened. And the more she listened, the more Tucker leaned in, certain he was winning. But then, something shifted. Tucker repeated a claim he had used many times before, a claim Crockett knew he could not support with facts. And when he did, Crockett softly leaned forward, folded her hands, and said, "Okay, Tucker, let's walk through that." The room stirred. Audience members sensed imbalance. Crockett looked like a mathematician who had just spotted an equation's fatal flaw. Tucker, unaware of the trap ahead, smiled wider, the smile of someone who believed he had the upper hand. What he didn't realize was this: Crockett had already decided where the conversation would end. And she was guiding him toward it. To grasp why this moment hit so hard, you must understand Tucker's projection. For years, he mastered the art of certainty, never hesitating, never backtracking, never admitting doubt. His audience didn't tune in for nuance, they tuned in for confidence, for the performance, for the appearance of dominance. In political infotainment, dominance is currency. So on this stage, Tucker did what he always did: he framed his worldview as unquestionable. He cast himself as the truth teller. He turned disagreements into moral battles. He dismissed counter-arguments with condescension. He made the crowd laugh. He made his supporters clap. And he believed, sincerely, that Crockett would crumble under pressure like so many before her. Because Tucker wasn't debating Crockett the person. He was debating the idea he had of her. And in that idea, she was supposed to be predictable. But Jasmine Crockett does not perform predictability. She performs precision. And Tucker's biggest mistake wasn't underestimating her intelligence, it was underestimating her preparation. While he performed for the audience, she was studying the structure of his argument. She watched his cadence, his pacing, his pattern. She recognized every trap he tried to lay because she had seen them all before. And that's when Tucker walked into his own trap. He repeated a key claim, one he had made on his show, in interviews, and on social media. But this time, on stage, he couldn't hide behind editing, graphics, or scripted monologues. This time, it was live. And Crockett was ready. Jasmine Crockett didn't climb into politics through privilege. She came through chaos. Before Congress, before the headlines, before the viral clips, she was a public defender in Texas, representing people who had been stepped on by systems designed to break them. She knows pressure. She knows intimidation. She knows what real stakes feel like. And she knows how to listen. When she sat across from Tucker Carlson, she wasn't facing a media personality. She was facing another man attempting to derail truth by over-talking it. But Crockett didn't rise to the bait. She did what great trial lawyers do. She waited. She let Tucker build his own trap. One sentence at a time. One flawed claim at a time. One assumption at a time. Because Crockett has a philosophy, never interrupt someone who's tearing down their own argument. So she watched him do exactly that. When the moment arrived, the crack in his logic, the claim she knew had no evidence, she straightened her posture. A small motion. Barely noticeable. But the audience felt it. A shift in energy. The calm before an intellectual storm. Then she asked, Tucker, can you cite one verified source, just one, that supports what you just said? Silence. Not because Tucker didn't speak, but because what he said wasn't an answer. He redirected. He pivoted. He joked. He smirked. He raised his eyebrows. He even gestured toward the crowd, searching for reinforcement. But Crockett didn't blink. Just one verified source, she repeated. Take your time. This was the moment the audience knew she wasn't attacking him. She was pinning him. And Tucker felt it. Because what Crockett did next would become the most replayed moment of the entire event. Tucker tried everything. He shifted tone. He tried to speed up the conversation. He injected sarcasm. He attempted misdirection. But Crockett's question hung in the air like a legal subpoena. Just one verified source. The crowd wasn't hostile. They weren't rude. They weren't cheering or booing. They were simply waiting. And the waiting is what broke him. Tucker wasn't used to silence. He wasn't used to pressure that didn't come from shouting. He wasn't used to someone who refused to emotionally react. For the first time on stage, he looked uneasy. Why are you being hostile? He finally asked. Hostile? Crockett raised one eyebrow and smiled. Hostile? Tucker, it's a question. Laughter rippled across the room, not mean, not mocking, but incredulous. Because everyone saw what was happening. Tucker was losing his grip on the narrative. And Crockett was doing it without raising her voice, without insulting him, without theatrics. She was doing it with clarity. The meltdown wasn't a scream. It wasn't a tantrum. It was a slow unraveling, the kind you only notice when a person who relies on dominance realizes they don't have it. And then, the moment came. Tucker inhaled sharply, ready to launch into another explanation when Crockett leaned slightly closer and asked the question that shattered the illusion. Tucker, if what you're saying is true, why can't you prove it? The audience froze. This wasn't just a request for evidence. This wasn't just a rebuttal. This was a spotlight, shining directly on the flaw in his entire narrative. Tucker blinked. He adjusted his papers. He forced a laugh. Well, Congresswoman, no, really, Crockett said gently. If your argument stands on truth, you should be able to back it up. So why can't you? This time, the audience didn't laugh. They listened. And Tucker panicked. He raised his voice. He talked faster. He repeated phrases. He tried to shift blame. "It's not my job to provide evidence," he snapped at one point. Crockett didn't miss a beat. "Then it's not my job to take your argument seriously." Gasps. Not loud, but collective. This was the moment Tucker's meltdown wasn't just emotional, it was visible. His face reddened. He stuttered slightly. He shuffled his notes again, a sign that the script in his head was breaking. "Are you calling me a liar?" he demanded. Crockett smiled softly, almost sympathetically. "I'm saying that truth doesn't need volume. It needs proof. And you haven't shown any." Tucker tried to interrupt. She continued anyway. "You've spent years telling people what to fear, who to blame, and what to believe. But the moment someone asks you to support your claims, you crumble. Why is that?" Boom. The word echoed without being spoken aloud. He crumbled. Tucker attempted one final escape. "This is ridiculous. You're being emotional." Crockett's response became the viral moment. "I'm not emotional, Tucker. I'm prepared." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. The moderator didn't speak. The audience didn't breathe. Even Tucker stayed quiet, not because he chose to, but because he had nothing left. Crockett finished the moment with a line that would be quoted everywhere. "You don't get to redefine my calm as emotion simply because my facts challenge your performance." And that was the moment his argument died. Without shouting, without insults, without drama, just truth. The clip hit Twitter first, then TikTok, then Instagram, then late-night TV. Within hours, #Crockett question, #Tucker meltdown, #prepared not emotional all trended simultaneously. Reaction compilations flooded in. Creators reenacted the moment. Lawyers praised her precision. Debate coaches analyzed her calm. Even political rivals acknowledged her composure. Meanwhile, Tucker's supporters tried damage control. They claimed she was rude, smug, unfair. But the clip spoke for itself. Because nothing spreads faster than a powerful truth delivered with unshakable calm. At a press briefing the next morning, a reporter asked Crockett, "How did you stay so calm while Tucker was attacking you?" Crockett smiled. "Calm is easy when you know your truth doesn't need defending, only stating." She paused, then added something that would become the outro's moral center. "A lot of people in this country mistake loudness for strength. But real strength is quiet. Real strength is steady. Real strength can wait while someone else loses control." She didn't mention Tucker by name. She didn't brag. She didn't gloat. She simply reminded the nation, truth doesn't tremble. People do. In a world drowning in noise, moments like this cut through, not because they're dramatic, but because they're undeniably clear. A calm mind defeated a loud argument. A single question shattered a manufactured narrative. A prepared woman exposed the limits of performance politics. And millions saw it happen. If there is a lesson in this moment, it's simple. Clarity beats chaos. Preparation beats performance. Truth beats volume. And Jasmine Crockett didn't just win a debate. She reminded America what strength actually looks like.